41 years later, Alan Dorfman's murder still remains unsolved. Killed in front of the Purple Hotel, also known as the Hyatt Lincolnwood Hotel. Whacked after having a bite to eat with a friend of his. He was murdered in broad daylight, and his murder was never solved while in between two court cases, and the mob was worried he was going to talk. The mob wanted to avoid prison time and had him hit with 7 shots around noon on a cold day in January. Alan Dorfman was an insurance agency owner and consultant to the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Central States Pension Fund. He had close ties to important people like Jimmy Hoffa and Joey the Clown Lombardo. He would die at the age of 60 years old in 1983. Most people believe there was 2 gunmen and not just one. The FBI had some prime suspects or people of interest, but were never able to prove anything, and this crime will most likely never be solved. Frank, the German, Schweiss, is one of the main suspects. Frank the German is deceased and no longer around. He's a true gangster of yesterday. Sketch of one of the killers and the victim. Below is a sketch of the murder scene and how it went down. The description of the killers being around 6'2" and 5'10". Frank was certainly a big man, and it could have been Frank as one of the shooters. One man believed to be around 240 pounds and the other to be around 190 pounds. Dorfman was shot dead between these cars. Nick Calabrese testified that it was Big John Fecarata and in Frank the German Schweiss who did the hit. This is possible even though Nick had many holes in his testimony. Not to say he lied about everything, but he did lie, and some of his stories were not found credible by the feds. For all we know, Nick could have been one of the shooters, as most of the crimes he blamed on others he planned and did. Nicky Slim was a rat, and good for that. Just like mobsters couldn't trust Nick, no one should, definitely not the government or civilians or my viewers. The mob trusted him, and look how that turned out. Nick simply is not a man of his word, and half of his stories were bullshit, just to get himself out of a jam and cover his own skin. Nicky Slim took being a stool pigeon to the next level, cause he's also a serial killer who got himself a nice deal from the FBI and was never heard from again, and passed away a free man in the Witness Protection Program under a new name with no criminal record. It was wiped clean. For his cooperation, he ratted on his own brother in the outfit like the creep he was, and ratted on the entire outfit for its past crimes, and blamed his crimes on dead enforcers, or people the FBI told him to name off, so they could grab the top bosses and other top members. The Chicago mob would refer to Alan Dorfman as AD. I also have heard tales about Harry the Hook Alamon possibly being one of the shooters. Who do you think was the shooter? Leave your answer in the comments section if you're watching this on YouTube. Nick Calabrese was never a good, reliable witness. The jury could only convict those they could corroborate Nick's story with. Others he named that lacked hard evidence to convict. Besides just words from Nick, they had evidence to match with that. Big John Stoop was dead by family secrets trial, and Frank the German died during the trial and was so sick that he couldn't face the court and was unable to attend the rest of the trial. AD was convicted in 1982 and murdered in 1983. He was murdered gangland style. Dorfman came from a Jewish background and associated himself with organized crime figures. For example, the Italian-American mob known as La Cosa Nostra, and that being the Chicago crime syndicate. Dorfman was killed 2 days before he was set to testify. That is Alan Dorfman below, after being whacked badly by the outfit. Indicted along with Joey Lombardo, the Chicago street boss who owned Dorfman, that Lombardo sunk his hooks into, Also indicted with Lombardo and Dorfman was Anthony Spilotro, Erwin Weiner, and others. During the family secrets trial, mobsters were not convicted or acquitted, with the charges dropped by Lombardo would be charged in the death of stool pigeon Danny Seifert, a wannabe hood who thought he was tough shit, telling people he was an associate of Lombardo and the outfit, till things didn't go his way and threatened to run to the feds. That was a dumb move of Danny and a fucking rat move. And he was even dumb enough to tell the outfit he was running to the feds by threatening Lombardo that he was going to run to the feds. He would meet the same fate as Dorfman. Only difference is Danny Seifert is a true rat. Dorfman was whacked for simply thinking he might tell. He was the dumbest rat of all time. He must have not known how truly powerful the mob was. That was an automatic death sentence, and don't feel bad for the family because the husband and father chose to be a part of that life, and they betrayed it by becoming dirty, stinking rats. The whole family is rats. The Seifert son probably grew up to be a rat and comes from a family of them. Your mom and dad are both informants and you make a living off the man you hate. I think you're full of shit. Also, you didn't have to be a part of anything, but you choose to make a living off Joe Lombardo's name, cause you and I both know that his name holds clout. And without his name in your mouth, what else are you gonna fucking talk about? Your life is boring, so you talk about Lombardo, who led an exciting gangster lifestyle. R.I.P. Joey the Clown Lombardo, and rest in piss to all rats. Dorfman was killed because there was a small chance he might flip, but really no real indication that he would. Meanwhile, the whole Seifert family are finks, who make a living off the stuff that allegedly destroyed their lives. If Joe Lombardo was so bad and such a horrible memory, then you wouldn't talk about him in all your books and on every podcast. Lombardo is the only reason the Seifert family is able to make any type of money in 2025, but cashing on books about a man that bothers them so much while Joe Lombardo has family too. And they all think you're straight up rats and informants, and Danny Seifert was a fucking asshole. And so is anyone with that last name. The Lombardos and the Spilotro got my respect, but you and your family not so much. The Spilotros and the Lombardos were always good dudes and always will be. Tony was a stand-up dude and Michael was a saint, and Joey was also idolized by fellow gangsters. Don't believe everything you hear, especially from a family of rats, or any informant for that matter, cause they are all full of shit. Now back to the topic of discussion. Dorfman, when ambushed by the shooter or two shooters, was shot with a .22 caliber automatic pistol, just quiet enough and lethal enough to lay you down. If this was done at night, they would have had many bystanders or none at all whatsoever. Not saying no one would see it at night, but broad day light hits are risky for any hitman or hitmen. This was not a usual style for Chicago, who did things more low-key. It was very unusual. This was more New York style. As the shooter, you put yourself at risk of being caught for the hit by potentially being seen by someone doing something normal during the day, while at night you can only find the late-night crowd around or the occasional bum, and most police are off duty already. Unfortunately, the mob is always being watched by the feds, so as the FBI builds up its case against these mafia members slowly, they also watch these gangsters very closely. So a gangster could go to do a hit, and the whole time the feds could be snapping photos and watching them do the crime. One of the prime suspects, Big John Stoop Fecarata. Of the 26th and Chinatown crew, also personal messenger to Joey Iuppa, under skipper Angelo Lapietra, and later Jimmy Lapietra. Big John Fecarata, no longer living, was also later killed by the outfit, but was a person of interest in the death of Alan Dorfman. The main suspect in the death of Alan Dorfman also passed away. Here we have Frank the German. Frank is a heavy hitter who put some serious work for the outfit and did a lot of odd job murders for them. He was very loyal to mob boss Joey Iuppa and fellow mobster and top street boss Joe Lombardo, who informant Red Wimet helped the government convict both made men. Most famous for being the main suspect in the death, iconic actress Marilyn Monroe, who once dated Frank's fellow Chicago mobster Sam Giancana. Sam Giancana was once boss of the Chicago mob. His underboss Phil Aldergio ordered the hit. Phil would become boss shortly after. With Tietz Battaglia being a short-lived chieftain, Phil would also only be boss for a short time period. Informant Red Wimet would testify against Frank the German and Joey the Clown Lombardo and help convict and send them both to prison with his cooperation. Wimet would begin his rat journey as he first started snitching on mob legend Joe Amato about his unfair street tax as he told the feds about Amato and his underworld politics. In the countless interviews, he has never mentioned it, so I will, as a historian and a journalist, after in-depth research, I found 302 forms of Red Wimet originally flipping on Joe Amato. He also secretly recorded Frank the German with a VHS-style camcorder that he had hidden in his house, recording his convos with Frank. He would also testify against Joe Lombardo and point him out in court and say Joe gave him a wink, making it seem like Joe was cool with him ratting and telling on him. Also, Red was never a member of Lombardo's Grand Avenue crew. An authentic member is someone like Made Man Mike Swiatek. And Frank the German, for example, another official member and also made man. He was Italian with a bit of German in him. Also, Chicago is not New York. You don't have to be 100% Italian. You could still become made and be part German or Irish, and Chicago had a lot of guys who were half Irish. Even the acting boss was half Italian and half Irish. Even though this was unknown to some members. It would come out in court when being interrogated by the prosecution office and lawyers. Paul Dorfman, Alan Dorfman's father, once gained control of the Chicago Waste Handlers Union Local 20467 after the mysterious murder of its previous owner, Leon Cook. He has been associated with gangsters from Claude Maddox, Tony Accardo, and other organized crime figures. But once again, Alan Dorfman belonged to Grand Avenue crew leader Joey, the Clown Lombardo.
At least 4 people saw Alan Dorfman gunned down in the hotel parking lot in Lincolnwood. This is how they remember the gunman. 6 feet 2 inches tall, weighing perhaps 240 to 260 pounds, 36 to 40 years old. He had a full beard. And there was a second man, younger, perhaps 30, and shorter, under 6 feet. He was of average build. They apparently waited until Dorfman had parked his Cadillac in the Hyatt parking lot and began walking with a companion, Irwin Weiner, to the hotel restaurant, 100 feet or more away. As Dorfman passed between 2 parked cars, the killers came up from behind.
They shouted this as a robbery at first, but then they started shooting before the victim had a chance to do anything. I wouldn't hazard a guess, and I don't think robbery was the motive.
At least 5 shots fired at close range hit Dorfman in the back left side of the head. 8 shell casings were found. His companion, Irwin Weiner, walking just ahead of him, was not touched.
Weiner just stood there, apparently.
He didn't dive for cover, or...
As far as we can determine at this time, he stood there.
Weiner, a retired bondsman from Niles, was a longtime friend. The two had been indicted together back in 1974 in connection with a Teamsters Union fraud scheme. Both men were linked with the mob.
It's a part and parcel of life in the United States that close association with La Cosa Nostra often leads to a sudden death, the type of death that we experience today.
This morning, Dorfman and Weiner went to the First National Bank of Lincolnwood. Weiner gave him a check for $7,500, he said, for a past debt. And then the 2 men went for a bite to eat at the Hyatt restaurant. After the shooting, Dorfman's wife and Bill Webb, a business partner, came to the Skokie Valley Hospital to identify the body. Webb was a reluctant witness for the government in the recent bribery trial that ended in the conviction of Dorfman, Teamsters boss Roy Williams, and 3 others. On the back seat of Dorfman's car was a video cassette of the new Paul Newman movie, The Verdict. Dorfman himself was awaiting sentencing in federal court, but apparently someone already had passed sentence on Alan Dorfman.
I wanted to be very clear. Mr. Dorfman at no time cooperated in the past or currently with the FBI or the Justice Department, and therefore I want it very clear that his death Whatever happened today was not the result of his cooperation because he was not cooperating.
True Gangsters of Yesterday. Directed, edited, produced, and written by True Gangsters of Yesterday. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for new episodes. If you would like to donate to the channel, just click the Super Thanks button below, or you can donate through the Cash App link in my bio. Also, feel free to click that join button and pick out a membership that works for you of your preferred choice and subscribe for free. Share, comment, and create a playlist of your favorite episodes. Hit like, smack that bell like a true gangster, and never miss another notification again. A True Gangsters of Yesterday film. Become a member of the channel and earn exclusive perks like loyalty badges, highlighted comments, instant replies, and more.